Mom, there's some woman living there with 3 kids, and she swears they're dad's kids, I blurted out. And she basically told me to get lost when I hinted the condo is mine.
Alex tossed the keys onto the kitchen table.
I don't know what kind of arrangement you and Dad had, but I'm not cleaning up after him.
Alex, your father and I had a normal marriage, Susan Parker said, stunned. Robert was a decent man.
No. If you knew about this and were okay with it, that's on you, not me, I shot back. Here, you go sort it out.
He pushed the keys closer to her. What exactly am I supposed to sort out, honey? Susan asked, confused. What, is the place filthy? Call a cleaning service. I'll pay for it.
It's not just dirty, Mom. Alex rubbed his forehead, then met her eyes. You really didn't know?
Know what? Susan frowned. That condo wasn't being rented out, but it wasn't abandoned either. Your dad used it once in a while. If he had late meetings and didn't want to drive back to the suburbs, or when we fought.
How often did you two fight? I asked, a crooked little smirk on my face. Especially lately.
Alex, people don't talk bad about the dead, Susan sputtered.
Well, make an exception, I said, for context.
Like any couple, she said haltingly. We'd been together a long time. We got tired of each other sometimes. Things weren't going well at work for him. I got a promotion around the same time. He was on edge about it.
Yeah, I figured. Alex blew out a breath. Anyway, here are the keys. You know the address. You go see what's left in there.
And what could possibly be left that's got you this worked up? Susan asked. Evidence of wild nights? I told you, call a cleaning crew.
Mom, there's a woman living there with 3 kids, and she claims they're dad's. I burst out. I told her the place was willed to me, and she told me to take a hike. Then some guy, I guess her boyfriend, grabbed me and threw me out of the building.
Susan went pale. She clearly had no idea.
So much for a decent man, huh? I snorted.
Calm down, Susan said firmly. I'll take care of it. Alex nodded a couple of times, grabbed his jacket and left her alone in the kitchen. Susan reached up and, with one decisive movement, pulled the black scarf from her hair. 2 months a widow, and suddenly the man she'd been mourning didn't seem particularly worthy of mourning at all. Once again, it was on her to clench her fists and deal with everything. Even cleaning up after her husband now that he was gone. I guess I'm just not meant to be the delicate kind of woman, she sighed. If there's a fire, I'm the one with the hose. If the horse runs wild, I'm the one grabbing the reins. Susan had grown up watching her own mother drag men through life. First her dad, then one stepfather, then another. When Susan left for the dorms at nursing school, her mom already had a new project to support. At some point Susan stopped keeping track. It was too painful watching her mother spend herself on men who didn't deserve it, while snapping at her daughter whenever Susan tried to talk sense into her. I'm not doing that, Susan had promised herself. If I marry, it's going to be to someone solid. Someone I can lean on. She met Robert Parker during her medical residency. He wasn't in medicine, and that, to Susan, was a bonus. He was an aspiring small business owner, eyes bright with plans and the kind of stubborn determination most people only talk about. Susan saw drive, confidence, strength. So when Robert proposed, she said yes. She liked the idea of two different worlds under one roof. If her career in medicine hit a wall, his business would carry them. If his business struggled, her degree would keep them afloat. Two independent income streams felt safer than putting all their eggs in one basket. That's how it played out at first. Starting out as a resident and then a junior attending, Susan didn't make much. Respectable profession, lousy paycheck, that was medicine. By the time she finished residency, she was pregnant. After that came a low-paid hospital job, long shifts, then maternity leave. For the first few years, Robert's business paid for pretty much everything. He wasn't making millions, but they weren't cold or hungry or constantly overdrafting either. Could things have been nicer? Sure. But Susan knew it could also be much worse. She was genuinely proud of every little milestone Robert's company hit, and she backed him however she could. After maternity leave, she went back to the same community hospital, grinding out hours, experience and reputation. For another few years, they lived mostly off Robert's income. Then Susan got an offer from a private diagnostic center uptown, better pay, nicer equipment, insured patients. Same medicine, but at least they paid her like a professional, not like a charity case. Dr. Parker, the medical director, had said after she'd been there 2 years, "How would you feel about expanding your practice? I also own a small surgical hospital. I'd like to bring you on there. Salary's higher, you could even split time if you want." A doctor in a small outpatient center and a doctor with admitting privileges at a full clinic are very different animals. Susan would have been crazy to say no. Her promotion did not do wonders for Robert's ego. For years his paycheck had basically been the family's lifeline, and he was proud of that. When Susan started splitting time between the center and the clinic, her total income quietly edged past his. Not by a lot, but enough that the math was obvious. At first she didn't notice that Robert had gone dimmer. She was too busy being excited about her own progress. He told her he was happy for her, and he probably meant it, but in his happiness there was a streak of resentment. By the time she realized she'd started to carry Robert the way her mother had carried all those men, her own excitement cooled. She even cut back on some paid consults to avoid out-earning him too obviously. But eventually she had to go back to them, and take on more. Robert's business hit a snag. A deal he'd been counting on for 6 months fell apart. He kept the lights on at the office and paid his employees, but there was nothing left to bring home. First of all, no panic, Susan told him. I can pick up extra shifts, we'll be fine. Just don't fall apart over this. In business, stuff happens. She didn't bother with second of all or third of all. He didn't hear first of all. He folded in on himself instead. Through mutual friends, Susan found out that the collapsed deal had been a kind of moonshot. Robert had wanted to land one huge win, just to blow her salary out of the water. When it fell through, it broke more than his balance sheet. She sent those same friends back with a message. Tell Robert it doesn't matter what his wife makes. What matters is what he himself is worth. He only started to thaw after those 6 brutal months passed, his company stabilized again, and money began to trickle back in. In the meantime, Susan had covered almost everything. Extra shifts, nights, weekends. Management noticed. They saw the professionalism, the reliability, the way she never ducked hard cases. They offered her the job of department head. She couldn't say no, and she didn't tell Robert. For more than a year she worked as a department chief with the corresponding salary, lugging home the same amount of money as before and quietly stacking the difference in a locked drawer in her office. Bonus? Gift? Lottery win? Bribe? How do I even explain this later? She wondered sometimes. She knew how absurd it was. But she also knew that if she started bringing home her full pay, Robert would collapse again. He was already killing himself trying to keep up with an income level he simply couldn't reach without going all in on risks he wasn't built to take. There's a saying in business, if you're not growing, you're already dying. Robert never really grew. He hired people, sure, but didn't know how to expand the business enough to keep everyone both busy and paid. He was a decent small-time operator, not a shark. One miserable afternoon he came home drunk and said he'd gone under. Whole business, gone. Life wasn't worth a dime. He might as well disappear. Susan went cold. This was it, the moment he would finally collapse onto her shoulders for good. And she couldn't, morally, push him off. He hadn't kicked her out when she was bringing home a residence paycheck and nothing more. For the first time, she understood her mother. Her mom hadn't left Susan's dad or any of those stepdads until they'd started getting violent. Until then, she fed them, clothed them, loved them, and carried them on her back. Once Robert sobered up, Susan asked one question. How much would it take to keep your business from flatlining? Honestly, not that much, he muttered. But we don't have it. I can request a loan from the hospital, she said. They'll just payroll deduct me until it's paid. How much do you need? She almost told him she had double that amount in her office drawer. She bit her tongue just in time. Legalize half of it, she thought grimly, when the hospital check cleared and Robert's company got a second wind. This time he did grow, a little. Enough to feel like a provider again. If you want, he told her eventually, you can quit. I can support us now. We'll be fine. How about I don't quit? She asked carefully. I actually like what I do. Well, if it's just for fun, he said, magnanimous. By then she was deputy medical director. The moment of truth came when their son turned 20. Hiding her position made no sense anymore. Susan was promoted to chief medical officer of one of the top private hospitals in the state. Her face was on billboards and social media ads all over town. Leading clinic under the direction of Dr. Susan Parker, MD. Robert took the news with a chill. Polite, controlled, but a chill all the same. No fights, no divorce, nothing dramatic. Just cool air in the house. There was no longer a single head of the family, a role Robert had always reserved in his mind for himself. Now there were two poles, two independent adults who, if they were honest, could each survive without the other. They kept living together mostly out of inertia. Well, and because they had a son. Though, staying together for the kid made less sense when that kid was 20 years old. 6 years later, Robert Parker dropped dead at work. No warning. He walked into his office in the morning, sat down in his chair, and never got up. The secretary found him an hour later. The will was a surprise. Susan had assumed everything would just default to her and Alex. But the lawyer read out specifics, all business assets, savings, and the family home, to Susan. The downtown condo Robert had bought before marriage, to Alex. With it came a separate letter, written the year Susan's face first appeared on those billboards.
"I'm not a stupid man," Robert had written. "I know I wouldn't have a business if you hadn't put money into it when I failed. The company is yours as much as it is mine. As for our son, I'm leaving him what is truly mine, the place I bought with my own money before we ever met."
Whatever their problems, Susan had cried when she read it. He'd understood more than he ever said out loud. But now there was a woman with 3 kids in that, truly his, place. And it was on Susan, as always, to deal with it. She didn't go alone. She pulled up to the downtown condo in her car, 3 large hospital security guards in plain clothes stepping out behind her. Alex's story about getting physically tossed out of the building didn't make going solo sound appealing. A woman in her mid-30s yanked open the door before Susan could knock, eyes wild, kids peeking out from behind her legs.
"You can't just throw us out," the woman shouted before Susan even introduced herself. "There are minor children here. We have nowhere else to go. These are Robert Parker's kids. They're entitled to a share of his estate."
Susan let the tirade wash over her, face expressionless. The woman's voice cracked. She started crying.
"I loved him," she sobbed. "I did everything for him. I gave him 3 children. When he died, I almost died too. The only reason I'm still here is them, his babies. I live for them. For his kids."
Susan listened to that as calmly as she had the yelling. It was the man behind the woman, the one Alex had described as some guy, who looked genuinely nervous. Stocky, tattoo peeking from under his t-shirt sleeve, he shifted his weight from foot to foot, avoiding eye contact. "Here's how this is going to work," Susan said finally, and the commander in her, the hospital chief, slipped into place. Her voice turned cool and precise. "Right now, all of you are going to leave this unit. You have no legal right to occupy this property. That includes the children, yes."
The woman gasped.
After that, Susan continued, "You are welcome to file whatever motions you like. Petition the court to establish paternity. Contest the will. Sue me personally for allegedly throwing poor, helpless people into the street. That's what the court system is for." She pointed at the door. "But until then, you are trespassing in my son's condo. So either you walk out with your belongings, or I call the police and the legal owner. And we do this very officially." Her guards didn't have to say a word. Just standing behind Susan, arms folded, they made the situation very clear. In the end, no cops came. No social workers. No lawyers. The woman packed in furious silence, dragging suitcases out into the hall, kids whining and clinging to her legs. The nervous man hauled out the larger bags without once meeting Susan's eyes.
Expect a lawsuit, the woman spat at the end.
I sincerely hope so, Susan replied. I'd love to see you try to prove any of this in front of a judge. Weeks passed. No lawsuit ever came. Susan assumed the woman had thought it through and realized she had nothing that would hold up in court. More likely, the kids were biologically the nervous boyfriends, not Robert's. And as for why Robert had ever gotten involved with someone like that, Susan understood that part all too well. The woman had looked at him like he hung the moon. Total dependence, total adoration. No questions, no competition. To someone who'd spent years next to a high-powered spouse, that kind of worship could be addictive. He'd probably known, or at least suspected, those children weren't his. But he chose to believe they were, as long as he could still see that worship in her eyes. A hurt little boy, Susan thought, driving home. That's what he really was. A hurt little boy who wanted someone to clap for him no matter what. He'd seemed like a grown, respectable man. A decent person, as she used to say. Well, about the dead, they say, either nothing, or the truth.